Hi, everybody. Planning for a world of year is an exciting journey. And it is especially so because we are crafting a rhythm in a year that will foster growth as well as foster a love for learning for the child. Hi, my name is Teresa. I'm a Waldorf educator for a while now, and I'd like to show you in this video how to plan for a Waldorf grade year. Welcome. Waldorf curriculum is often referred to as the head, heart, and hands curriculum. And that is because it strives to meet the whole child in their thinking, in their head, in their feeling, and in their willing. So even as you plan, you have that at the back of your mind that you're going to plan for this child who should be met by the curriculum in their head, in their heart, and in their willing. So as you plan, that is what is at the back of your mind, as well as some of these few questions here which you need to think about as you sit down to plan for the year. The first question you're asking yourself, for this grade year that I'm planning, how is the curriculum supposed to meet this child? What should this child experience this year that I'm planning for? Question number 2 is you're asking yourself, how is your school year demarcated? How is it divided? Or how is it split? How many parts is it split into? I mean, in terms of terms or semesters. My school year has 3 terms. It has first term and second term and third term. So that is something you're asking yourself as you're planning as well. The other thing or the other question you have to bear in mind, or a question that you have to ask yourself is, are there trips that you want to incorporate into the year? Are there activities or are there festivals that are a rhythm for your school year? Because you also need to have that in mind when you're planning for your year. The other question you ask yourself is, how many times should a block appear in each year? Is it once or twice? And maybe for those who are new here, a block is a topic that a teacher delves into for about 3 or 4 weeks and really stays in there with the children. And we call that a block. But it's a topic that the teacher works with the children every morning in the main lesson for about 3 or 4 weeks. So the question you're asking yourself as you plan is, how many times will this topic appear in a year? Once or twice or thrice? That is a question that you can ask yourself as you sit to plan for a year. I would like to show you now how I do mine, and I will share my screen a moment. And we are going to work with grade 4 blocks. I'm currently a grade 4 teacher, and I would like to show you how I worked with my year and how I put down the blocks all the way from the beginning. One moment. It's here. All right. So the question of how is the curriculum meeting this child? Which topics are coming to this child? So in grade 4, the topics or the blocks that come to this child who is 9, turning 10 in grade 4 is Norse mythology. Those are the stories they're hearing. And then there's fractions, that's their math theme. And then there's zoology. And then they will also have local geography and history, as well as a grammar block. So those are the blocks that they will experience this year. And then there's something I wrote here. I said curriculum supplements. And for me, these are class trips, a class play, and maybe other festivals in the year. So the question is, would you like as a teacher to put in a class trip that's going to supplement the work in the class? Would you like to put some field trips or some class trips where they can go out of school, out of class to experience a little bit more what you're bringing to them this year? There's also the class play. At my school, we have a class play. Each class has their play once a year. And then for number 3, we also have festivals that come across the year. We have a rhythm of festivals that come during different times in the year. So that's something you need to think about, the blocks and then the curriculum supplements. And then the question I asked earlier, which was, how many times should each block be taught? And then a footnote that all blocks are important. However, some carry more weight. However, Different teachers will answer this question differently. But here is a suggestion that I wanted to share with you on how we can proceed now from knowing the blocks that are meeting the children, the curriculum that's coming to grade 4 children. And now I've listed it down, and now I know what they need to be taught. So now I want to plan for my year. So what I do is make a framework. Our year is split into 3. It has first term, second term, and third term. So I split it into 3. And then I have first term, which is the September to December term. We call it the September term. And then I will put 2 blocks before half term. Our half term is 1 week long. And then 2 blocks after half term towards the end of term. And then for our school, at my school, at the end of the first term, we have a festival called the Festival of Light. Comes in early December. That's where the children participate in an all-school play, which is really beautiful. So that's how we end our term 1. Then in term 2, which I will call the January term, I will do the same thing. 2 blocks before half term, then half term, 1 week long break, and then 2 blocks come after half term. And then the term 2 will end with a class play, and each class does their own class play. And then that's how that term will end. And then now we'll have the third term, same thing, same framework, 2 blocks, half term, 2 blocks after that, and then a festival. We end the year with a festival or an event that the school likes to end the year with. So that gives me a total of 12 blocks. There's 4 blocks in each term. That gives me a total of 12 blocks. And then now we'll be slotting them into my framework, which I want to show you how I do it. So now I'm working with term 1. And then to just bear in mind, when you're planning that terms, generally, I don't know, on my end, they usually have about 11 to 14 weeks on average. So the first term, at the beginning of the first term, this is the first year, they've just come from grade 3, had a long holiday. Now they are in grade 4. Then I'll bring in Norse mythology. So these are the stories that they're going to hear all year. And the idea is to bring the stories almost immediately the year starts so that they can be able to land into grade 4. These are the stories we are hearing. And then they start to work with them language-wise, spelling-wise, recall, written recall, oral recall. They are working with a lot of those stories. So it's good if they start at the beginning of the year, and then that sets the pace for the year for them. And then after the Norse, I will bring in the fractions, which also gives me an aspect of breathing, or a bit of change for them. They've been working with lots of writing, lots of language work, and then now fractions come in. Now it's math, just ruling your book, doing sums, and all that. So that brings a bit of breathing as well. And then we will break into half term, and then after half term, there will be local geography and history, which is an introduction of that. And then after that will be a language arts. This is grammar, building up from what was in class 3. They did parts of speech in 3, and then now in class 4, there's tenses, and then they develop a little bit more parts of speech in grade 4. So you have a nice amount of work to work with that, with the grade 4 children before the term ends. So I have indicated Festival of Light at the back there, at the end there, although the practice for Festival of Light or the play already comes to the children after half term. So the practice, the rehearsals are incorporated into the day or into the week after half term. So it's flowing in between with the other aspects of learning. But the play will probably be performed towards the end of term. That's why it's at that bit over there. So maybe just a bit of recap. What I do is identify the blocks that I need to teach for that grade year, list them down, and then ask myself whether I'm putting a class trip on or I'm putting a class play on, and what are the other festivals in the year. And then I'll build a framework according to how my year looks like, and I'll decide for this term, 4 blocks split between a half term, and then a festival, then there's a class play, and so on. So I'll have a framework of how the year looks like. Then I'm going to now slot in per term. And the idea is to have, so now I'll do this for term 1, and I'll do this for term 2 and term 3 in a sitting, so that I can have a whole overview or an overview for the whole year to know what I'm teaching across the whole year, which helps because if I know that I'm going to have 3 Norse mythology blocks, then I'm able to split, share my content across 3 blocks. Maybe each term has a block, so that they are working with the stories deeply for across their 3 terms, and then maybe fractions have 3 blocks or 2 blocks depending. So when you're planning, it's best to do a whole year, not just per term, because then you have the overall picture and you know how much content you need and you know how much you need to spread across the year, the content that needs to come to the children. So that's how I would do my year. I'll do that for term 1, term 2, term 3 until all my blocks are done. And I cannot overemphasize on reading and researching and reading ahead. Let's say I'm almost wrapping up with my Norse mythology. So I start to look for my fractions books. Where are they and what are we supposed to do in the next 2 weeks? I'm practicing, I'm making notes, I'm reading ahead. It also really helps with the planning. If you plan ahead, then you're able to read ahead. And then now when it's time for the block, you are prepared, ready for the children, so that there's seamless transition in between the blocks, from one block to the next, because you had already planned ahead, because you had a planner and you knew what was coming after them. So it's very helpful to have a year plan laid out now, and then now it flows into your term plan, and then you're able to work per term in that sense. So I will stop screen sharing, and then I will mention that it's been really good to be able to explain that. In case you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. If you'd like to know how to plan for a specific grade, maybe grade 3 or a different grade, please let me know. I'll be happy to guide. And then, of course, hear your ideas, because one beautiful thing in Waldorf, you are free to be able to work how you will, depending on your group of the children or how your class is, within what the curriculum needs to bring to the children. So thank you very much and happy planning.